everyone. Welcome back to the railroad. The Union Pacific Railroad Evanston subdivision in HO Scale. My name is Daryl Cruz, owner and builder of the layout, and your host for a special episode trying to attain new feats on the railroad. We have a case where I'm going to be doing some ballasting at the Evanston yard, which you're looking at right now. And before I did the ballasting, I need to get all the cars out of the yard, and so thought it'd be a good opportunity to put a bunch of cars together and see how many we could get up the Evanston sub, specifically the Wahsatch grade. So right now we're at the Evanston yard and we're putting together the train. If you haven't seen the first video today yet, make sure you check out the weekly update, which updated some of the things that I did this week, and also kind of gave some background information on assembling this train and things that are going on. So definitely make sure you check that out if you haven't yet. But right now we're in the last steps of putting together this train. There's 105 cars in the yard at this particular time, and we're going to get them all out of the yard so that this week I can do some pretty serious ballasting at the Evanston yard. So right now we're using 5 locomotives. We have a couple of AC 4400s by Scale Trains, a couple of SD70Ms by Athearn, and I think there's also one Dash 9 by Athearn. So this is going to be pulled by only 5 locomotives for a 105 car train going up a pretty serious grade. And the hope was I was going to be able to make it all the way through without any mishaps, no derailments, no uncouplings, no stalls, no problems all the way around. But turns out there was a couple of issues. Did not have any problems with the grade. The 5 locomotives, as you'll see, have no trouble pulling up the grade. We actually have or had more problems going down the Helix, which you'll see in a bit. That was our main mishap, was some issues with the DPUs pushing the train going down the Helix. So we'll get to that eventually. Right now we're at the Evanston yard getting all the locomotives consisted to the same address, getting all the cars coupled up. Again, it's 105 cars. Taking some time now to air up the air brakes so that if we need to stop quickly, we can. Here I'm checking out everything, making sure we're all set to go. This last locomotive had some hesitations on joining the consist, but I was able to coax it along and got it to respond to address 98, which is the consist address for the 5 locomotives. So we're in the Evanston yard. The actual start of the train, as you'll see, is already on the main line and down the main line pretty far. So all right, so we're going to go ahead and move to the front of the train. There you see the track going into the furnace room and across into the next room. That's actually a 1.5% grade there. So we actually are starting out on the biggest grade. And we're already at Aspen, and we're going ahead and doing a crossover here. Last time I did a 100-car train, we some people commented that I didn't do any crossovers, so we're actually doing 2 crossovers here. One at Aspen, there's a stack train that's in our track, so we're going to run around that, going from the right-hand track to the left-hand track, and then once we get past the stack train, we'll go back to the right-hand track. From Green River to Curvo, it is a right-hand running Mainline, and then from Kerrville to Ogden, which you see in the staging yard down below, that is left-hand running. And this is our first DPU. That's a Scale Trains AC 4400. So that, as I said, this is where the steepest grade is right now. This is a Athearn-9. That's the last DPU. So it's 105 cars in this train, and the way it's distributed is there's 53 cars from the 3 locomotives in the lead to the first DPU. And then I think it's like 28 cars from the first DPU to the second DPU, and then 25 cars from the second DPU to the end of the train, which you see right here. And of course we do have a EOT at the end. All right, so we're at the back of the train right now. Let's see if we can get back to the head of the train. Everything seems to be moving smoothly. This is going to be the Aspen tunnels there, by the way, eventually. All right, we're going through the crossover here. Just kind of slowly walking to the head of the train. Here's a stack train that we're passing up. And then this is where it's crossing back over to the right-hand side. This is Granger, where we're crossing back over to the other side, or to the right hand. Now right now we're at a spot where things are actually pretty level. In fact, from Granger, or I should say from West Vaco, we're kind of still going uphill right now. West Vaco here is the highest point of the railroad. And there's a platform there, so if people are operating at West Vaco, they can get some height advantage and be able to reach things. So it's a steady climb up to this point. Now at the Evanston yard, we're actually starting in the middle of the Evanston subdivision. Again, this is West Vaco, where we have covered hoppers in and empties in and loaded covered hoppers out. And I am stopping here because I did not have the turnouts set right. If you notice, I have a red over yellow, which means the turnouts are set for crossing over, and I don't want to cross over here. I want to go straight through. So we're coming to a stop here, and we're actually going to walk around and pick it up from the other side of the peninsula. Again, you can see the length of the train here. It's kind of behind the stack train. Hopefully you can kind of get an idea where it is. So we're all the way back. There's the end of the train. 105 cars is quite a length. All right, here we are standing on the other side of the peninsula, and we got things started up again. And you can kind of see the train. So from the 3 locomotives here, then all the way in the distance, you can see the first DPU. It's 53 cars. The longest train that I normally run is 44 cars. So a little bit shorter than from here to that first DPU. Of course, from that DPU there's another 28 cars, a DPU, and another 25 cars. It's not often we get to see a full train and just realize how long prototype trains really are. And to be honest with you, 105 cars is not that long for the prototype. They can go over 200 cars easily. I'm holding the camera up a little bit. Usually at eye level, you can see just over the top of the backdrop. But I did design this peninsula, so if you're standing on one side of the peninsula, you can look and see the other side of the peninsula. So you get a really nice look at this long straightaway. And there you can see the second DPU. So on the main line, you know, going up the grade here now, the train on this side of West Vaco is actually going downhill now. And then we're just about to go into the Helix. This is the area that I'm going to be working on. You can see all the empty tracks there. That's where I'm going to be ballasting. I'm trying to slow down my panning so that it's easier to follow along. So we get a chance to see the entire train go by here. Now, to be honest with you, this is a activity that I really should have had another person here. So we have a 105 car train running, and on much of the trip, only a portion of the train is actually in my view where I know things are going. So I'm just kind of trusting the equipment and the track to perform, because the front of the train I know at this point is already in the Helix. So I really would like to know how it's doing in there while I'm standing here. But it turns out it's doing fine up to this point. All right, here we are, finally to the end of the train. Again. All right, I'm going to go ahead and sit on my little chair here and roll myself under the layout and get into the Helix area here. All right, so looks like things are performing as expected. Now going down the Helix is a little bit unusual, because at the top of the Helix, the very first thing the train does is go around on the level without descending. So if you notice here, it comes from the main layout, and it goes all the way around on the level and does not descend at all. And then when it makes its first turn, it actually is crossing over or going over itself. And that crossover makes up for the crossover at Curvo. In order to have two separate main lines all the way throughout the layout, you can't have just one crossover between the main lines. If you have one, you have to have a second one. And so that extra trip around, so it starts off on the outside track, and then it ends up, after taking that extra trip around, it ends up on the inside track. Basically just crossing over itself. And there's the end of the train. So the train is completely in the Helix, and we still have a loop to go yet. So everything at this point is working exceedingly well. And I should have known that this was going to happen. But the biggest issue, especially with DPUs, is going down the Helix and the transition from the downgrade of the Helix to going onto the level track of the staging yard. So the lead locomotives are now making the transition, and they're going from the Helix and moving on to a level track now of the staging yard. So I'm checking here, making sure that the turnouts are thrown correctly to go into the correct track. There's only one track that's open, and it is going through with no problem, so that's good. But what happens now, and we're not going to actually see it happen because I wasn't really thinking of it, but that B locomotives are now in the level track, and you still have two locomotives coming down the hill. And so they end up pushing the trains with too much force coming down the last few turns of the Helix. And you'll see it in a bit how that happens. Right now, I wanted to check the front of the locomotives, make sure that we didn't hit the wrong turnouts, make sure the turnouts were set right, because I didn't want it to come to an abrupt stop. So looks like this turnout is correct. They're both correct. And now we have a little bit of hesitation here. So I know something's not right. Notice I'm kind of walking around like, what am I doing? What am I doing? What's going on? So I'm going back to the Helix, trying to look and see what's going on. And so I have this mirror that we can use here to see. So I'm starting the train up again, and you can see the trains coming through. I'm kind of waiting to see, is it really a derailment, or are things fine? So I'm just kind of checking to see. I'm actually hoping that there's not a problem and that things were fine and everything. But there we go. There's the indication that there is, in fact, a derailment. So back to my chair, rolling back into the Helix. And sure enough, there is one car derailed. And I was thinking that wasn't too bad, but here's the issue. We have actually these two DPU units pushed so hard that it knocked all these cars off. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 cars completely pushed over. And so I did take a break in filming, put everything back on the track, and we're starting things up again. So that's definitely, as far as the Helix go, there's actually more issues coming down the Helix than there is going up. At first I had quite a few issues going up the Helix because a lot of times the couplers at the head end of the train would come uncouple, and then the train would roll back down the Helix. But I've been changing out almost all of the couplers to KDs, so that's not really much of an issue anymore. But coming down the Helix, especially with DPUs, we definitely have some issues. Now, the prototype trains have all this computerized, so the push and the pull of each, not pull, but the level of push, there's an issue there too, by the way, which is an uncoupling. But the push of each locomotive is controlled by the computer. Now, of course, once you know it, there's two non-KD couplers there, and they may be the ones that cause the problem, because this is kind of where it happened at this first DPU. Take it back. That's the second DPU. That's where the derailment happened. It's at the second DPU, I think. Anyway, so there were a couple. I still have not changed all of them. I'm getting really close. I will definitely be glad when they're all changed out to KD. But anyway, there definitely is more of a problem coming down the Helix, especially with DPUs. But even without the DPU, when the trains come from the Helix and that's 2%, and then half the train is on the staging yard here, which is level. If you have DPUs, you have a problem with the pushing. If you don't have DPUs, then you still might have some uncouplings taking place if you don't have all the couplers changed over yet, which, as I said, we almost have. I would say I have probably 80% of them changed out, and most of the ones that aren't are Walthers couplers, which aren't too bad. Those two that came uncoupled back there, those were still Athearn couplers. All right, so we're now back on track. Was not able to make it all the way without a mishap. Foiled by the Helix. But at least I know why it happened. And I'm not really sure what a solution would be to that, except maybe adjusting the back EMF of the locomotives so that they don't continue to push hard coming down the Helix. But I don't know what kind of experience you've had with adjusting back EMF on DCC decoders, but it's not an easy thing to do. But maybe at some point in time I'll figure that out. Right now I seem to have everything figured out for the length of trains that I'm running. And to be honest with you, I don't really think I'm going to worry about the 105 car trains since they don't happen very often. And let's go ahead and go to the front of the train. That was Morgan right there in the corner. There's the first DPU, or I should say the second DPU, first from the back. Okay, I'm trying to walk slowly here, so it's a kind of a slow panning. There's the first DPU, that's the AC 4400. Getting close to the front of the train. Now from the staging yard all the way to Emory here, it's about a steady 1% climb. And this truck's going to have a long wait here. All right, so from the staging yard, it's about a 1% up to Emory, and then at Emory, or past Emory, the two main lines separate from each other. And we're now on about a 0.5% incline. And the other main line, which is the original main line, is on a 1.7% incline. So for the trip between Emory and Wahsatch, the uphill trains always go on the modern main line, which we're on now, which has a lower, more of a gradual incline, and then the westward trains going downgrade take the original main line, which has a 1.7% grade. This is Kerrville right here. And you can kind of see the whole train there. You can see the grade separation between the two main lines as they cross over at Kerrville. And then from here, it's about a 1.2% incline for the line that we're on, and then the upper level, the original main line, is about a 0.5%. I was really surprised how easily these 5 locomotives pulled these cars up this long grade. All right, now what happened here, which is kind of interesting, I heard a noise. And this happens every once in a while, where I'll hear a noise and I always think it's okay, something's coming on off the track or whatever. But a lot of times it's just my wife walking, or she, making some kind of noise upstairs, which was the case this time. So there is no mishap. It's just my wife upstairs making some noise, faking me out. So I'm going to try and slowly get back to the front of the train here. All right, we do have a flashing yellow. So we're going to go ahead and continue up. This control point here is the Wahsatch control point, and it is the summit for this section. So from here, it goes downhill a bit into Evanston. And then after it goes through Evanston, it goes back upgrade again up to the Aspen tunnels, then level for a while to pass the Aspen control point, and then back uphill at about 1% up to Westvaco, and then back downhill from Westvaco to the Helix, and then of course then downhill completely from the Helix down back to the staging yard. This is an area that I just recently finished. All right, should say finished with the basic scenery. Still a lot of details to add, but I think it turned out pretty good. And we're coming to a stop right now because we are at the west entrance to the Evanston yard, which now is completely void of trains, of any cars. So this is now ready to be worked on. So I'll be doing that this week. I'm not sure if I'll get it all finished, but I'll get most of it done. And let's make sure we're here all together before we end things. Get one last look at the length of the train. Once I get the ballasting done in Evanston, we'll go ahead and roll this train back into the yard and put all the cars back. And of course, once you know, those 2 cars came uncoupled again. This is the ones with the Athearn couplers. I haven't changed these because these are old Genesis cars. Look at that one. These are old Genesis cars, and the coupler pocket is too narrow for the KD replacement. So kind of been saving them to last. All right, here we are at the end of the train. And we made it all the way around. By the way, I did replace these since yesterday. Thanks so much for watching, everybody. Like, subscribe. Have a great week. Take care, everyone. Oh, and also make sure you comment as we get things coupled back up together with the 050. All right, we're all set. Have a great week, everyone. Take care.